surprise us every single time, right? And then they followed up with, hey, I know I was a little bit abrupt there, but that getting that cat safe was my first priority. How did you feel about the process, or how we did it, or what we could do different, right? There's all sorts of things we can plan, but unless we plan them, we got no shot. We got no shot at just hoping or intending or wishing or thinking we might do better.
So I'm just envisioning veterinary practices conducting like drills, but instead of, because, we practice CPR every year. Hopefully we don't have to do it more than that, but we at least do our training. So I'm just envisioning, us literally running through a scenario where someone is high stress and how they would respond. And that itself, this might be a silly question, and I apologize. None of my questions are very direct.
No, they're great.
They're all kind of like my brain, like a bouncy ball in a rubber room. So you're literally actually running through the scenario of, okay, I feel myself getting angry or frustrated, so this is what I'm going to say to signal to everybody else that we're going to all take it down a notch.
That's exactly right. Can you imagine if hospitals did that a little bit?
Kind of sounds like fun, but
absolutely. And don't think for a second that the best emergency rooms in the country don't run drills or go through training for exactly that, go through communication for exactly that. Don't think that pilots who are flying planes don't run drills consistently. They get in a simulator and run them to death for emergency situations so that they don't stress out. They follow a process. Right. Okay, this is happening to the airplane. All right, great. Here's what I say. Here's what I do. They know those things, both in what they say to others, how they communicate if there's more than one pilot in the cockpit, and what they actually do, which switches they flip, what communication they make on the radio, what gauges they look at. This is no different. And for us to think as a profession that we don't need any of that, we'll just figure it out on the fly, which is sometimes what we allow ourselves to do, is not setting ourselves up for success. It's setting ourselves up for an incredibly stressful, disengaged, frustrating, scary, and sometimes just too difficult of an environment to even work in or feel good about after we did. And there's no need for that. There's tools and processes in place, but we don't hear a lot of voices within the profession advocating for them, articulating them, helping people understand them or work through them at all. I was at a hospital working with a hospital that I consult with just recently, and we went through with a lot of the people there that are team leaders and things like, we went through coaching practice. All right, here's the situation, have the conversation. And we built a process and we let them practice it and repeat it and go through it. And yes, it takes time, but yes, their conversations are better now than they were when they're coaching their team. No question about it, right? But we somehow think in veterinary medicine, we don't really need to practice anything, that we do enough of it on the fly to get good at it. The problem is we do it on the fly incorrectly. And so we're actually practicing the wrong things all day long sometimes.
As an aside, that would be extremely helpful for veterinary colleges to do more drills like that, as far as how to, bedside manner alone, but like even just a class on how to give bad news to somebody, I think would be extremely helpful. Because so many times we beat around the bush just to then, because I mean, I've been practicing for 12 years. And the first, I'd say 6, I would always be surprised when I was trying to deliver bad news, and then they would still look confused.
Yes.
And until I said one word, and then you saw them shut down, and then you knew nothing else you were saying. And so trial and error, like you were saying. And so I did it incorrectly for 6 years, and hopefully I'm doing it a little bit better. But that's very interesting.
That's true for all of us, right? First of all, we don't know what the right way was. We've had lots of people say what they think the right way is. And in veterinary medicine, we tend to insulate ourselves a bit. So we'll listen to other veterinarians who lead practices, or we'll listen to other people that have been in the industry for a while. But that doesn't mean they're right. It just means that's what they did. Right. And of course, we describe it as right because we measure it a different way. Well, that worked, or that person got the message, or we don't know if that really happened. I can't count the times I've worked with managers and people that report to them both. And the manager will tell you, yeah, they got the message pretty clearly there. We had a great conversation, and they have complete clarity on where they stand. I'll go talk to the person. Hey, tell me where you think you stand. Completely different page. Right. I don't even, sometimes it's astonishing to me. It's like, how could you guys even be in the same room? Like, clearly there needed to be a translator or something. You were on different pages to an extreme, even though you just had this conversation. It's pretty eye-opening to be able to do that work. And we do that all the time in veterinary medicine. I've done that in veterinary hospitals and found complete different pictures of what that conversation was about, what it meant, and what's supposed to happen next. And so there are ways to do it. Clarity doesn't happen when you say it. It happens when you hear it. And so the only way in a situation like that is say, hey, tell me what you just heard and tell me what you want to do differently and how I can help. Yeah. If we just use that phrase at the end of sort of giving feedback to someone, we could make a huge difference right there. But that's a process we have to try and practice and all those things. And those things, a lot of them come from outside veterinary medicine sometimes, not from a practice owner that's built that on their own. And yet those are sometimes the voices that we hear a lot within the profession.
And I think that's a great stopping point. So we're going to pick up part 2 of my interview with Randy Hall next time. And now I give you Christopher and Blaze's pet tales. Tell me a tale of Christopher.
So we decided to get a bearded dragon when Christopher was a kitten. Say he was about a few months old. And so we set up the bearded dragon cage up downstairs in the basement and put up all the lamps and stuff. And it produced a lot of heat, so we'd always find Christopher looking in the cage, and we thought he was just interested in the lizard. But one day I was in the basement outside my room, and I heard this crash, and I was like, "What the heck is going on?" And I walked into the room, and I noticed the screen on top of the lizard cage was broken through, and looked inside, and there was the cat sitting underneath the lamp, basking in the light, and then of course the lizard up in the corner hissing at him and stuff like that. So yeah, that's our little funny tale for him. Is he just loves enclosed spaces, and so now he always goes underneath the comforters and wads up a little ball, or he'll go in boxes and just wherever he can find a space to chill.
My sister and brother-in-law had 2.5 acres that my brother-in-law decided not to mow, and so he went over to Camp Lemons and ended up, they threw the ball and he ended up hurting something. And so went to a few doctors, even drove 6 hours to WSU, which is the northwest best vet out there. But everybody's like, no, he's fine. So then we finally we move over to DC, and we find Hope Vet Hospital and you guys at that whole conglomerate of awesomeness. And the vet was like, oh, well, he's probably going to be fine with PT, which is what the vet said, but let's do x-rays. So then they did x-rays, and they realized that the cruciate and the meniscus were torn. So we then have surgery, and then they pretty much tell you that the dog's gonna die. They tell you all the things that you shouldn't do with your dog, that I'm already stressed out, that we're spending all this money. Also, the insurance didn't pay for it, and so then I had to cancel that insurance, so it was just a headache. But it's don't let your dog jump, and don't let your dog sit, and don't let your dog smell, and don't let your dog do literally anything. And we go home, and I set up the bathroom, and it was big, pretty big, kind of like this. Put blankets over everything, and I decided, well, I'm going to just camp out in the bathroom with him. And so the dog and the cat have pictures of it. We're all sleeping together in the bathroom. Well, the next day, I put a suitcase or whatever in front of the door because I didn't want to close it.
You gotta face this way, buddy.
And
here we go.
So we put a suitcase in front of the door. Bart comes over because we weren't living together at the time. And of course they're like, don't let your dog jump because you'll blow the surgery. Well, sure enough, the suitcase wasn't big enough and he jumped over it. And I've never been hysterical in my life, and I lost it. I was just scream crying oh my God, this stupid broken. And luckily he was there because he just put me in a car and we went to the doctor's office, and I'm thinking, oh my God, they're going to have to do x-rays, they're going to have to do all these things, and we get to the emergency room and all they do is just walk him around. They're like, okay, he's fine. And I'm like, oh God. That is when I knew that I was probably going to be with Bart for the rest of my life. He could deal with me in that psycho mess. It was going to be fine. But yeah, we camped out in the bathroom for 2 weeks, and then just spent lots of time with rehab, and like, I don't know, 10 months later, we finally ended rehab just because I'm so anal about him getting better.
Yeah.
But, surgery was awful. I just thought, I've never been through surgery. Bart's been through surgery, so he's like, he's fine. I'm like, but I don't know. So, surgery made me have all these new gray hairs. It was awful.
Did he have the same procedure,
Bart?
Yeah.
I know.
Did he have basically
the TPLO or
yeah.
TLPO or whatever it is?
Yeah.
Pretty much. No, he had his knee replaced.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so what we were hoping, though, because Blaze did hydrotherapy, because, where he walks in the water, we were hoping that they could do hydrotherapy together. So, like,
Aww.
they go find a pool on the yeah.
That'd be a good idea.
That'd be awesome. So, so Blaze went through surgery in March, and then Bart went through surgery in November, and so I just have the whole household, except for me, is pretty much broken.
Yeah, so keep your knees.
Yeah. Or, just replace everything, just be bionic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More machine.
Yeah.
We have the technology.
What I didn't realize, though, is that during surgery, they were going to do a surgical fracture and put the plate on there.
Uh-huh.
I didn't even realize he had metal on there until 10 weeks later. When they did an x-ray, I'm like, oh yeah, here's a plate. I'm like, what is this metal? I don't know what this is. They're like, oh yeah, it's fine. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, this is what we do with active dogs. It's going to be fine. There's a higher chance that it's going to be better or heal faster and better. And I was like, well, I believe you because he's walking on it and he's not upset with it, but I don't know if it's a better story, but I mean, we've been together, Blaze and I, for 6 years now. He goes with me everywhere. In San Francisco, all of my friends knew that if we were having, dinner parties or, Friendsgivings or whatever it was, I was always going to bring Blaze. And so Blaze and I were just like thick as thieves. However, he would never snuggle with me because it gets too hot. That's what I thought it was. And then we spend the night with my cousin, who was 6 at the time. And Blaze goes and sleeps with her, and they're like intertwined. And I'm like, hello? And I thought, oh, it's just kids. He loves kids. It's, that's just what it is. And then we move in with Bart, and it's the same freaking thing. And I'm like, hello, you cheater, Blaze. So it's not kids. It's just Bart and kids and everyone else. So I've actually had to teach him the command kiss. So I get kisses and snuggles because otherwise he'll be licking Bart or literally anybody else. And I'll be like, Blaze, kisses. And he'll look at me, side eye, and then go back to whoever it is. And I'm like, you punk. So, he definitely knows what he's doing. And he knows that it bothers me. It's so great.
Maybe you flail in your sleep.
I don't know, maybe. I don't know. But it's not even when we're sleeping. It's just when we're in bed or you're on the couch even, and Blaze will be like a cat on him, but he's just like, nah, I'm just going to make it so you are sad.
Or he's so protective of his mommy, he's distracting other people so that he can make eye contact with you constantly.
I mean, I've read a whole lot of articles of why do dogs do this? And part of it could be they don't do it with they're human. He'll follow me everywhere, so I know I'm still his human. And all these different things. Everybody's got a story or whatever. I'm just he just totally does it on purpose. He knows it.
I think that about wraps it up. As always, thank you for listening to this installment of Vetsplaining. I hope you enjoyed your time with me and ideally learned at least one new thing for the day. If you have any questions or suggestions for future topics, feel free to leave a comment below or email info@independenthillvet.com and put podcast topic or podcast comment in the subject line. Until next time.